available. So with that, I just wanted to jump into a case study, and it's a global tire manufacturing company that approached us after the last crisis here in the US to improve their operational risk management program by integrating their KRI analytics. And so this was sort of a company that I wanted to showcase. The company has been around for a long time. They have a global footprint, like most of our customers. Founded in 1914, headquartered in Ohio. It is a U.S. publicly listed company with 20,000 plus employees. So the challenge they had was the corporate office wanted to get control over their risk management program. They had data in factories, so products being shipped and suppliers sending the raw material into it, and all that was in place. However, it required there was no integration, right? So they couldn't really manage the risk. They were relying in typical fashion where the reports would be compiled month end and provided to management. And in case of risk management, like the current situation, hindsight maybe 2020, but it's useless if you look if your reports are 30 days late. You got to make decisions on literally a daily basis. And smart decisions and powerful decisions. So that was their big challenge when they came to us. Customer data wasn't available for customers out of the US. And I was thinking, that's so true today as well, because with GDPR and everything else, you got to be very careful how you treat that data, even though you need that data to ensure customer service and product quality. This was one of their big challenges as well. And then financial teams were unable to analyze, the cost versus profit to get the margin forecast to management, so they could project that and report that to the Wall Street. So financial projections were a big challenge. And then a disaster recovery plan and continuity plan was mostly manual. So they wanted to put in some pieces in place to be able to alert systems and so forth, the lessons they had learned from the previous crisis. And so their solution is components of SafeSight and ARCPaaS. We have branded these products several times over the years, but that's what the current brand would be. So the results are that they were able to reduce the manual reporting time, right? So the whole KRI process used to take them a month, and once a month they would get a report, and it would involve quite a bit of administrative work from each of those plants. They would have to one FTE dedicated to just collecting and gathering this data, putting them into 3-ring binders and shipping that to the corporate office or emailing it at best. And so we were able to help them improve that whole process of developing the KRI data and getting it to the right people to make decisions by cutting the effort 75%. And what I don't mention there, but is important also, is the errors, right? So when you collate all that into spreadsheets, there are errors, and one of the things that we learned working with them is that the accuracy and the reliance went up as a result of having direct access to the data source globally on all manufacturing plants. And that's where the daily dashboard concept comes in, right? So they now have daily dashboards where, based on your role, you can go in and log into SafeInsight and see those dashboards and make decisions that are relevant for that specific situation that day. So in crisis management, that is critical. And if you need that help, we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Increase access to capital. So what happens is, once they came out of the crisis, is they were able to get so much good visibility that they were able to manage their supply chain better, cut down their raw material cost, and ultimately put a more accelerated plan to pay off the debts. There's some talk our customers have. Airlines have been receiving some funds already. American Airlines has received $1 billion. I think they have $8 or $9 billion left in their lines right now to get through this crisis. But with this new financial recovery program that governments are offering throughout the world, including U.S., there will be a need to access that capital, but of course that'll come with some strings attached. In other words, you've got to be able to demonstrate that you have the controls in place to pay it back. So we're stepping up those capabilities as well to help you take advantage of the capital that's made available through the government entities and leverage that to get a better rating with institutions and creditors. So you're ahead of the game there. And finally, the BCP, business continuity planning risks, they were able to detect and remediate. They found that once they automated the BCP dashboards using SafePaaS, is that they identified I think it was 5+ BCP single points of failure in their system vulnerabilities, and that basically were causing that would have caused them to miss out on key execution steps of their BCP program, which would have meant significant disruption to the business and loss of people's resources and time and customer service. The QA in tires, as you might imagine, is a very important part of your reputation as well. So it's an overall reputation risk to the product and service delivery. So that's where this organization benefited by leveraging key risk indicators in times like this in the last crisis. So this is a lesson learned for me through this customer that I wanted to share with you as you plan your resilience programs and recovery programs. I actually picked out an old sheet from my requirements document that we started with, and I've highlighted the things that are relevant to us, to this presentation, and to our customers today as well. So the key risk indicators are all listed here. The ones that I've covered today in this presentation around raw material and price volatility, sales dashboards, brand and order management, certainly a product liability caseload, how we're dealing with issues that are reported through the consumers, information technology, disaster recovery, high availability, ERP readiness, and all that. You can see that I've highlighted that. Supply chain, commodities that are used to manufacture tires, impact on that, and risky suppliers. So we started with literally with this type of a spreadsheet or a document that was provided to us through workshops with executives at the top level, and this was our starting point. From there, we started building out these mock-ups that I, of course, sanitized. They don't show any client data, but I put we had 25 KRIs, I think, in the end. I picked about 3 or 4 as examples for this case study. So the cost of managing a global supply chain was a big impact on this tire manufacturing company. And the cost per unit was, as you can see, fluctuating. You're seeing the impact of oil prices, for example, right now, which is its own category of problems. And it has a downstream impact on raw material that comes out of that industry that's used to manufacture. So this fluctuation in cost is difficult to manage without understanding the impact on your business through these third-party suppliers, right? So that was one key indicator, key risk indicator for this organization. Capacity management, your ability to push the product out your manufacturing plants. What's the utilization right now? Obviously, it's down for most manufacturers. But as you talk about resilience, how do we get it back up to that utilization level that our financial models are built on, and how would that model over time? So being able to predict some of that or project some of that using the data that's coming in and the assumptions you're making based on your channel checks, your customer checks, and so forth across the globe, right? So that was one of the key indicators for them to be able to identify the risk in their capacity planning and manage the utilization of their manufacturing plants, which is something very relevant to the manufacturing industries with automobiles and so forth. Impacted here in Texas, we have GM plants that are shut down and so forth. Consumer quality doesn't go away. If somebody's driving on the road and their tire blows up, it's another problem, right? So being able to ensure quality is really important to these guys, and being able to see where that risk is and how that occurs and how do you mitigate that in your product liability side. It has, of course, a legal liability impact, and being able to test that by product line. So if you're making cars and you have minivans and trucks and everything else, where's that risk and how do you mitigate that? So being able to chart and analyze that and have that available on a daily basis or as quickly as possible, reasonably possible, to make those decisions. Some of this data, as you can imagine, is in many different systems, right? It's going to be in your the automobile itself, right? Those of us that have the modern computers hooked up, and they're reporting back the results into a mainframe system from which you can extract the data and build out these types of QA models and avoid any further risks to your business from impact from your products. The ventilator doesn't work, right? That type of thing. Employee communication is so important in this environment, right? We just talked about remote work and the importance of how to do effective remote work. And so being able to track the remote work and people communication is so important. And so being able to identify, how people are responding to the communication, how are they feeling? Are they healthy? Are they keeping themselves safe? Are they away from these zones of high risk? Or if they are in those zones, what extra measures are they taking? So all of that information is really important to your workforce. And without your workforce, your customers and your suppliers can't function, right? So you've got to have that in place. So employee effectiveness is really important. So dashboards around employee communication and issues management. And then the topic of the day, business continuity management itself. What are the things we're planning to do to our ERP system, and what's that gonna do to our cost and our response time and so forth. So having IT provide a daily, weekly, whatever, monthly dashboard to you is really critical to be able to continue your business and move to a resilience model. So with that.